your mobile phone to scan and then answer the question. You can answer freely because we're going to use your comments to improve our work next year.
Our feedbacks are very valuable to us to improve it in the next future events.
And this evening will be more interesting because we're going to have the session about the next generation leaders navigating uncertainty and shaping a resilient future. So we will have a chance to listen to the views from the young leaders, and you can have a chance to ask them a question as well. So right now, please make way to Crystal Hall B. The session will start shortly.สำหรับท่านใดที่ขึ้นมาแล้วนะคะก็ขอให้เข้ามายัง Crystal Hall B ได้เลยนะคะเดี๋ยวในช่วงถัดไปก็กำลังจะเริ่มต้นในอีกไม่ช้านี้ค่ะซึ่งก็จะเป็นหัวข้อที่น่าสนใจเพราะจะเป็นการเสวนานะคะที่จะนำเหล่าเยาวชนรุ่นใหม่นะคะมาหารือกันนะคะในหัวข้อที่น่าสนใจเป็นอย่างยิ่งค่ะในระหว่างนี้นะคะท่านใดที่ยังไม่ได้ตอบแบบสอบถามนะคะหยิบล้วงกระเป๋าขึ้นมาหยิบมือถือขึ้นมาสแกนหน้าจอแล้วตอบคำถามได้เลยนะคะตอบได้ตามใจเลยค่ะเอาแบบตรงๆได้เลยนะคะเพราะว่าเราจะเอาคอมเมนต์ของทุกท่านนะคะไปปรับใช้ต่อไปค่ะขอขอบคุณค่ะ So right now please make way into Crystal Hall talking about the young leaders and you're going to have a chance to ask questions and interact with themคุณทีมงานทุกท่านนะคะที่ทำให้เกิดงานวันนี้ด้วยเช่นเดียวกันค่ะแล้วก็ขอขอบคุณผู้เข้าร่วมทุกท่านนะคะที่มาร่วมฟังการเสวนากันอย่างพร้อมเพรียงค่ะตอนนี้นะคะถ้าท่านใดนะคะที่พร้อมแล้วนะคะก็ให้เข้ามานั่งประจำในห้อง Crystal Hall B ได้เลยค่ะ Please make way to Crystal Hall B as we're going to proceed with the afternoon session For those who haven't completed the survey yet, please use your mobile phone and scan to answer the question, or you can just take a photo and then complete it later. สำหรับท่านใดนะคะที่ยังไม่ตอบแบบประเมินนะคะให้ยกมือถือขึ้นมาถ่ายเก็บไว้ก่อนได้ค่ะแล้วก็นำไปตอบตอนกลับบ้านก็ได้เช่นเดียวกันค่ะ
Once we have arrived to this hall, please take your seats. The program will start soon. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you had a yummy and also the productive lunch break.
I know that it's after lunch, so I think that most of you are still sleepy. So please consider bringing a cup of coffee with you and place on the table while listening to the speakers. Okay, so we're gonna go into the formalities right now.
We will now begin our fifth plenary session titled Next Generation Leaders, Navigating Uncertainty and Shaping a Resilient Future. This session will provide a platform for new voices and fresh perspectives on the challenges and opportunities facing the next generation of leaders.
Our first esteemed speaker is Dr. Fuadi Pissuwan, the president of the Sirin Pissuwan Foundation and a lecturer at Thammasat University's Faculty of Political Science. Dr. Fuadi's research focuses on the connection between military alliance structures and cultural identities. Dr. Fuadi Pissuwan obtained his doctoral degree from University of Oxford as a Clarendon Scholar. He previously held positions at Harvard University Asia Center and the Cohen Group. He is also a coffee specialist and an exporter of Thai specialty coffee.
Next, we have Ms. Elina Noor, a senior fellow at the Carnegie Endowment for International Peace Asia Program. Ms. Noor's expertise includes technology policy and governance in the Asia Pacific, as well as security developments in Southeast Asia. Ms. Noor's previous experience includes roles at the Asia Society Policy Institute and the Institute of Strategic and International Studies, Malaysia. She holds degrees from University of Oxford, the London School of Economics, and Georgetown University. She has also served on several professional bodies, including the United Nations Secretary General's Advisory Board on Disarmament Matters.
Our third panelist is Dr. Ivan Laksamana, Shangri-La Dialogue Senior Fellow at the International Institute for Strategic Studies, or IISS, Singapore. He is also the editor of Asia Pacific Regional Security Assessment. Dr. Laksamana earned his doctorate from Maxwell School of Citizenship and Public Affairs, Syracuse University, as a Fulbright Presidential Scholar. His research has been published in a variety of peer-reviewed journals, and he has written for leading regional and global media outlets on Southeast Asian security affairs.
And to guide this important discussion, we are honored to introduce our moderator, Mr. Nakarin Wanakit Phaiboon, or Ken Nakarin, the CEO and editor-in-chief of The Standard, a leading Thai online news agency. He hosts The Secret Sauce podcast interviewing global and local leaders such as the Dalai Lama and Satya Nadella. As the author of The Invisible Leader, he is recognized as a thought leader in leadership and personal development. Ken also lectures and speaks widely for companies and public sectors. His work reflects a strong passion for education and inspiring future leaders.
And now, ladies and gentlemen, please join us in welcoming our distinguished panelists and our moderator, Mr. Nakarin Wanakit Paiboon, to the stage to begin this timely and important session. Please give them a big round of applause. The stage is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, friends. It's a true honor to moderate this final plenary session. Yes, this is our final session, so congratulations. We made it. A session that will bring us to the heart of everything we discussed over the past few days. The next generation of leaders, their challenges today and the future they are ready to shape. We have explored security in all its dimensions, from geopolitical tensions to transnational threats, from AI disruption to economic fragmentation. But, ladies and gentlemen, one thing is clear. None of these challenges can be meaningfully solved without the voices, energy, and leadership of the next generation. So today, we will shift the lens. What does uncertainty look like from their perspective? From global tensions to personal struggles like burnout, anxiety, or not being heard. Many young people are ready to lead, but still don't have enough space to do so. What would it take to create that space? And if they had it, what kind of real systemic change would they lead? How do we build a resilient mindset and the future-ready skills to not just survive, but to thrive amidst chaos? So I'm deeply honored to welcome three outstanding speakers who represent this rising generation. So please join me in welcoming them again. Please give a round of applause to them. And let me quickly brief you on how the session will run. The session has three parts. First, individual talks. Each of you will have around 15 minutes to give your presentation. And then after the talks, I will guide a conversation to connect the dots between your ideas around two questions. And finally, we will take a few questions from the floor before we close. So luckily, the three of you are already friends. So I'm sure this conversation will be lively, engaging, and fun. Let's begin with the geopolitical landscape. Dr. Ivan, please, the stage is yours. Please give a round of applause to him.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I know this is right after lunch, so I know it's a little bit heavy and quite sleepy, so I'll try to be very brief so that I don't put you all to sleep. But first, let me say thank you very much to General Songwit and to the Royal Thai Armed Forces for having me. It's a huge pleasure for me to be here. It's also a great excuse, I guess, for Fuadi and Elina and I to see again. I certainly cannot speak to be a young or a leader, so I'm not sure I can offer a fresh perspective. I think those days are long past for the three of us, but at least we're here for a nice reunion. What I'd like to do, I guess, is to offer my personal reflections about the young leaders from my participation as well as my management of the Shangri-La Dialogue Young Leaders Program that's been around for almost 10 years now. So just to give a brief introduction, the Shangri-La Dialogue is a track one event of defense ministers from around the region and increasingly global. It's been around since 2003, before, in fact, the ASEAN Defense Ministers meeting. And for the last 10 years in particular, since 2016, in which I was a part of the first delegate of young leaders in 2016, the Shangri-La Dialogue created a young leaders program, which was very much anchored in Southeast Asia. It was quite modest at a time of about 12 to 15. It has now reached about 40 people as of this year. So my reflections are from both my participation as well as now at the Institute. I've been running the program for a few years now with my colleagues. So what I think is interesting about the reflections from the Shangri-La Dialogue is that it is also a platform where young leaders are not only showcased, but we empower them to shape the regional security debate. If the Shangri-La Dialogue consists of 25 ministerial delegates from 40 countries, and the young leaders actually only consist about 7%, about 40 people out of 560, but they ask about 50% of the questions, which means the young leaders actually shape the conversation and hold directly to account the kind of questions they want to hear answered from the senior defense leaders from around the region. So there are three, I think, key reflections for the next generation of security and policymakers, which I think is relevant for the young leaders as well. That there's three main roles for the young leaders in these kinds of regional security debate. Number one, I think the young leaders offer a reality check. It's a reality check for them to see how the discourse of security policy has been debated. It's being discussed at the highest level. It gives them a sense of how policymakers engage with each other and to sort of look at the issues in much more close. On the other hand, I think it's also a reality check for the policymakers themselves, that they can't just say every single policy that they want without getting the buy-in from the next generation of security leaders. So the ability of the young leaders to engage directly with highest level security policymakers around the region and beyond, I think is an important two-way reality check for both the policymaker as well as for the young leaders themselves. The second, I think, value of the next generation and young leaders is what I would consider as an ideas generator. Now, for a long time, most people would dismiss the ideas from the young leaders. Oh, they're young, what do they know about the world? But what I will find myself from both being a participant as well as a manager of the program is that because they're not constrained by parochial interests or political positions or bureaucratic structures, they actually have a more openness and flexibility to debate ideas that may seem too difficult for policymakers to propose or to debate or to engage in, and yet the young leaders have the license, or do I say even the responsibility, to actually generate those ideas. Now, some of those ideas may seem like reinventing the wheel for the policymakers, and even if they are, they still provide new energy for the kinds of conversation that we take for granted. At a time of geopolitical competition in the region, for example, issues like Myanmar and the Thai-Cambodia situation were highly discussed and asked by the young leaders at the last two Shangri-La dialogues. So I think this is an important point, that the ideas being generated by the young leaders, by the next generation, provides an ideal benchmark and a key catalyst and spark for the debate, even at the highest level of policymakers. The last role which I would like to propose for the next generation is the idea of becoming a network amplifier. Now, Fuadi, Elina, and I have been a part of the same circuit for the last 10, 15 years, and I see that happening for the current generation of young leaders as well, that there is a long-term bond precisely because they're young, precisely because they're the next generation. So the ideas and the issues that they care about will be with them for a very long time ahead. It's not like there's a term limit for young leaders. So in that sense, the long-term bond grown from these events, I think, is exceptionally useful. And it's strengthened by the fact that they come from all walks of life. Some are from the business community, some are from the media, some are from the defense and security establishment, others from the foreign ministry. But if you put them all together and you create the network that lasts much longer, I think that creates an important not just ideas generation, but also channels of communication. From time to time, when I need help to make sense of what's going on in Thailand, I can always rely on Fuadi, and vice versa. And so for me, the notion that we should not amplify and give space to the young leaders is actually detrimental for regional security debates in the long run. their ability to provide a reality check, their ability to generate fresh ideas, and the strength of the network that they amplify across the region, I think is exceptionally useful. So let me conclude by saying that oftentimes young leaders are always put to the side because, you know, people might think of them as naive and all of those things. But I do think it's also important for the young leaders to understand that regional security is not something out there. It's not just that the elders talk about it and the young leaders take it. Young leaders should stop being price takers for regional security debates and should start be shapers. And I think the platforms provided by regional security dialogues, including the Thai Security Dialogue, I think is exceptionally useful for a resilient future. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Ivan, for highlighting this important perspective. So young people today are not just participants. They are the ones who ask the tough questions and create new conversations. And they play three vital roles: truth checkers, idea generators, and network amplifier. So now let's turn to the technological dimension of uncertainty. Please welcome Ms. Elina Noor to deliver her speech.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, a special thank you to the organizers for having me. I'm particularly grateful because, like Evan, I also questioned my relevance in this panel, but this panel could go one of two ways for me. It could either boost my self-confidence or fan my delusion about my youth. So we'll figure it out as we go along. What I'd like to do is to challenge some of our assumed frameworks, particularly the ones we've begun to work in, and I'd like to offer this as sort of a cautionary note for the real young leaders in the room as they take their professional careers forward. I have 4 slides, but don't worry, they're all pictures. I'm actually allergic to slides. And my first slide is really my cover slide. So 3 slides for 3 points. I'd like to begin with my first point involving time and space. I know this sounds very abstract, but I hope to make this more concrete for you. And this point about temporal and spatial aspects of uncertainty, particularly when we're dealing with technology, picks up from the points made yesterday, particularly by Ajahn Titinan, who talked about the circularity or linearity of time. And it also invites us to think more critically about some of, again, the assumed frameworks, such as the liberal international order that Professor Zhou Liao called into question yesterday. And so let me try to explain what I mean by the time and space of uncertainty. In this region, when we think and talk about tech, we often place tech in the present and the future. We rarely think of tech as something that connects from the past. There is a history to tech that moves in a linear fashion to the present and into the future. But there is also a circularity of tech that we often don't consider, and that could be detrimental to our own future in this region. Give you a concrete example. When we think about and discuss subsea data cables, many of us might not know that subsea data cables, for example, account for more than 95%, some say 99% of all data traffic in the world. So when we talk about the cloud, really our data goes through subsea data cables. But many of these cables, the modern day fiber optic cables that we've come to rely on for our internet and our communication on a daily basis, actually have historical roots. And by roots, I mean ROOTS and ROUTES that trace back to the 19th century, at the very least. And these 19th century submarine data cables really have their roots in the telegraph cables that were laid by the colonial powers. And because those cables were already there, it was very easy for modern-day vendors to simply lay the fiber optic data cables of today onto those routes. But these cables obviously have a past, and this past is mimicked in the cables today. A related example is when we, again, talk about tech, we often think about what it can do for our digital economy, what it can do for our green economy. We don't, for example, think about the patterns of extraction and exploitation upon which most modern-day tech relies. This includes, for example, the extraction of raw minerals, right, nickel in this region, for example, to power the green economy, green revolution, mostly in the global north. We also don't really take into account the data that's extracted from us on a daily basis every time we log onto the internet. And questions around who uses this data, what is it repurposed for, what is it going to be used for in the future. And so there's a temporal element to tech that we need to be thinking about more as we move into the future. Because a lot of this tech actually relies on old world divisions of the global north and the global south. I'll talk a little bit more about this later. Another example, territorial expansion. We often think about, these colonial misadventures of the past as being consigned to the past. But even in this day and age, we're still contesting borders. There is sand dredging and artificial island building going on in this region. There are also presidential pledges to expand territory into, quote, new and beautiful horizons. And we talk about the colonization of space. So again, this linearity and circularity of time, what we talk about today, we mimic from the past. Palestine, for example, remains one of the longest ongoing unfinished colonial projects that's being carried out with complete impunity. And we talk about international law in this region a lot, but it's being done in complete defiance of international law. There's a linearity to that. There's also a circularity in the fact that the Holocaust images of the 1940s that we saw in the past are now being replicated and live streamed into our phones today from Gaza. So I want us to keep in mind that when we think about our future, we also need to connect these dots from the past. Happily, in this region, in Southeast Asia, we've become used to thinking about time and space, not just in a linear fashion or even in a circular fashion. But we think about time sometimes, I'd like to think most of the time, in a way that blends a lot of these time and space dimensions. In the younger generation, I'm not sure I count myself among those, but I've educated myself to realize that the indigenous communities of our region, and by our region, I mean the Asia Pacific, so including our neighbors in Aotearoa and New Zealand and Australia, where history is not just past, present, and future. History is also encoded, wrapped up in what some might consider myths, but they're actual valid historical accounts for many communities. Right? The Maori, for example, don't distinguish between time and space. There is no indivisibility of time or space for this community. Similarly, in Indonesia, the Balinese community does not have this linearity of history. And so in this region, we have this notion that time and space and the events that happen can be in between what we think of as hours, days, centuries, decades. And so we are richer than the divisibility of time and space. My second point is related to the first. Because of this indivisibility of time and space that we sometimes set aside for the sake of quote-unquote modernity, we need to think of how everything is connected. And this seems obvious and evident when we've heard this repeated throughout the nearly 2 days that we've had together. Ajahn Khan mentioned this, how everything is connected, and we shouldn't be talking in terms of just non-interference, but non-indifference. Now, on an intellectual level, I think we all get it. We understand that things spill over not only into neighboring borders, but into other issues as well. And that's why we talk about a whole-of-government approach, a whole-of-society approach. But I don't think we've really internalized it in our actual policy implementation in this region. And so there's this disconnect, again, my example of the digital and green economies. And we often think, oh, renewable energy is going to power our digital economy. When in reality, I think if you unpack the numbers, the renewable energy that we have is not even enough to sustain our regular consumption, let alone power this digital transformation that we keep talking about. And I want to bring us back to this term that I think we often cast around, but we don't really take into account fully. And so when we talk about this division between the global south and the global north, my own preference is to talk about the global south as a global majority, because really the global south is the majority of the demographic of this world. But we, in our pursuit for modernity, progress, and development, we have been educated in many quote-unquote global north philosophies and political ideas, so that we think of ourselves as divorced from, for example, our surroundings, our environment. And there are many of us, not only in Asia, but also in Africa and Latin America, that are beginning to recall some of our traditional knowledge perspectives into even how we think and talk about technology. So I'll give you an example. We like to talk about, for example, the data protection laws, regulations in Europe as being the gold standard. But in Africa, there are many tech scholars, computer engineers even, that are talking about tech in terms of a relational approach rather than a purely rational approach to technology. And they're incorporating their cultural philosophy of Ubuntu, meaning I am because you are or we are, this relational aspect of life, into how they discuss scholarly articles and even policies around tech. I just learned this, in the Philippines, there is an equivalent to Ubuntu in Africa. It's in the indigenous Filipino communities, the idea of kapwa, the relational and shared identity amongst community. And this is not just a shared identity amongst human beings, it's also our shared relationship with the environment. And so when we think about technology, we need to be thinking about the entire life cycle of technology. What happens when we extract minerals to build tech? What happens when we disassemble and dismantle old systems? How will they affect the future generations? When we think about where to site our data centers in very urbanized areas, all of our countries in this region are competing to be data center hubs. What is the ecological impact of that? What is the impact of data centers on local communities when they are so energy, power, and water intensive? And so I'd like us to think about some of the more creative ways in which our neighbors are thinking about tech regulation, for example. In India, in 2017, in one of the states, the High Court of Uttarakhand designated legal personality to the rivers of Ganga and Yamuna. In Colombia, a few years earlier, the same legal personhood was granted to a river. And similarly, very recently in 2024 in Peru, a river there was also granted legal personhood, so that there can be rights attached to nature. And this is, it's not discussed in the mainstream, but it is one of those creative ways in which we should be thinking about our impact, even as we use tech, on nature. And so I'd like us to think more about some of the creative and innovative ways in terms of regulation and legislation that's being applied in the global majority. In ASEAN, we used to talk a lot about comprehensive security. We don't talk so much about that anymore, and perhaps we should be reviving that discussion. I'm running out of time, so my final slide calls into question this idea of resilience. because resilience is often categorized as something, it's defined as something positive, that we should all aim to be resilient. And it's true, we should. But how many times can you be resilient in the face of shocks over and over again? It's wearing, it's exhausting, and it assumes that even trauma can be done on you repeatedly, and you're expected to bounce back and to endure. So I said that I would question some of the assumptive frameworks that we work within. And so these are the 3 points that I would like to leave you with. And apparently the mic's been turned off, so that's my time. Thank you very much.
Wow. Okay. What a surprise. So thank you, Elina, for sparking fresh ideas on time and space in such an inspiring way, and for highlighting the cultural and community impacts of technology, while also reminding us that resilience means real change and built on trust. I'm not sure if I can call myself part of the young generation, but I'm certain our next speaker truly is. Please welcome Dr. Fuadi Pitsuwan.
Will the microphone stop working at 15? No, right? Okay. Let me warn you a little bit before I start. I was introduced last week at another forum as someone who is well known for his dissenting view, but still very likable. When I was invited to speak on this panel by our Chief of Defense Forces, the first thing I asked myself was, do I still qualify as a young leader? After all, I just turned 40 this year. But then I remember a young leader program I once joined in another Asian country that is also facing the challenge of an aging society. The leader of that organization spoke this morning, by the way. Their rule was simple. If you are still active and not planning to retire, you are still young. Even at 60, when this young leader program was being organized, they were asking me who could be young leaders. And they suggested they want to get to know our Bangkok governor, saying that he's still young. By that logic, as long as you don't stop working, you don't stop being young. So even when our Chief of Defense Forces retires this October, if he doesn't stop working, and I don't think he will, he could still stand right here on this panel with us. Now, joke aside, today I was asked to speak as a representative of young people and to reflect on how we can navigate uncertainty and shape a resilient future. When we talk about resilience, it's not just a national issue. It's about how Thailand treats its young people. It's about how ASEAN can reform to stay relevant. And it's about whether the global order leaves today's young hope, youth hope, or only burdens. I see myself more as a generation that bridges two more opposed generations, privileged to understand both, but often pained by the task of trying to mend their differences. And that is why the question of resilience is so difficult. I don't claim to have all the answers, but what I know is that young people do have real agency. They have energy, they have ideas, and they have the determination to challenge the status quo. I have seen this firsthand since joining a university recently as a full-time lecturer. Every day,
I meet students who are not afraid to raise difficult questions, to think critically, and to imagine a different future for our country and our world. But for that agency to truly matter, it is not enough for young people to speak. They also need to be listened to. Their voices need to be heard, not just politely acknowledged and then dismissed. And here lies the challenge. It requires a certain maturity from those in power to look beyond emotion and engage with young people's arguments in good faith. It requires leaders who are willing to set aside prejudice, to listen without defensiveness, and sometimes even to accept that the criticism being voiced could be true. In Thailand today, some young people who have called for reform are in jail, facing trial, or have been forced to seek refuge abroad. This reality cannot be the sign of resilient future. A resilient society is not one that silences its young generation, but one that embraces their voices as part of the national conversation. The real test of leadership is not how it treats the powerful, but how it treats the young who dare to speak truth to power. What we need is not only empathy, but also courage. The courage of leaders to look past rhetoric and assumptions of ulterior motive. It is true that many of these criticisms are expressed with passion, sometimes even in emotionally charged language. But the responsibility of leadership is precisely this, to see through the heat of the words and reach the heart of the message. In Pali, the language of the Buddhist text, there is a word that captures this idea, anukampa. It is often translated as compassion or sympathy, but more than that, it is the ability to be moved by another person's situation, to grasp the core of their message without judgment. And that, I believe, is what resilient leadership truly requires. At the ASEAN level, if any young person in this room, or any person in this room, were to have strong faith in ASEAN, it should probably be me. After all, my late father was once a leader of the ASEAN Secretariat. But the truth is, like many young people, I carry a healthy dose of skepticism towards the organization. As someone who grew up Muslim, received a Catholic education, and lived in a Buddhist society, I deeply value ASEAN's diversity. I also recognize its achievements. Despite the Thai-Cambodian skirmishes, ASEAN has largely maintained peace in what was once a conflict-torn region. They have pledged to remain nuclear-free. They have built a 3.7 trillion economy of 600 million people. Citizens today benefit from visa exemptions, aviation arrangements, and institutional milestones such as the ASEAN Charter, the ASEAN Economic Community, and the ASEAN Human Rights Declaration. Yet, in the eyes of many young citizens, the organization now faces three major crises: respect, reputation, and relevance. First, a crisis of respect. ASEAN centrality is weakened amid US-China competition. Great powers increasingly bypass ASEAN in favor of bilateral deals, undermining ASEAN unity. The tariff war was one example. Each ASEAN member pursued its own strategy, and the lack of collective bargaining was painfully visible. Internally, cross-border repression of dissidents makes it appear that ASEAN governments cooperate more effectively in silencing critics than advancing citizens' well-being. ASEAN cannot be respected abroad if it is not respected by its own young citizens at home. Second, a crisis of reputation. Myanmar is ASEAN's greatest reputational test. The 5-point consensus of 2021 has failed to halt violence or restore stability. The image of young protesters in Myanmar burning the ASEAN flag was powerful. It symbolized a generation losing faith. For young people, ASEAN's reputation is on the line. What use is ASEAN if it cannot even protect the basic dignity and voice of its citizens? That said, ASEAN effort in helping de-escalate the Thai-Cambodian conflict deserve credit. And the planned ASEAN monitoring mission could help restore some positive reputation to the institution. Third, a crisis of relevance. Citizens question ASEAN value when it fails to solve urgent problems that affect their daily life. Scam compounds in Myanmar and Cambodia have victimized thousands. Yet, promised ASEAN Center on Transnational Crime remains unrealized, even though the plan was first signed in 1997, 27 years ago. Similarly, haze pollution continues to choke millions annually, despite the 2002 haze agreement. It took 2 decades. It took 2 decades just to set up a coordinating center. Without real action and concrete results, ASEAN risks irrelevant in the life of its young citizens. If ASEAN is to be respected, reputable, and relevant, it must reform, act collectively, and deliver tangible results. As the great Thai diplomat Thanat Korman declared in 1967 when ASEAN was found through the Bangkok Declaration, ASEAN's mission was building, in quote, building a new society that will be responsive to the needs of our time and efficiently equipped to bring about for the enjoyment and the material as well as spiritual advancement of our peoples with us, conditions of stability and progress. That vision remains as urgent today as it was then. If ASEAN cannot deliver its young people today, it risks losing them tomorrow, and with them, its very purpose. Only by renewing this original spirit can ASEAN remain a force for peace, stability, and prosperity. More importantly, only then it can regain the trust of its young people, the very generation that looks to ASEAN not with nostalgia, but with hope for a more certain and resilient future. At the global level, crises are everywhere. We are witnessing 2 large-scale wars involving great powers or their proxy, alongside simmering tension that could spill over into conflict anytime. The war in Gaza has been catastrophic, with tens of thousands of deaths since October 2023. Meanwhile, the war in Ukraine has claimed hundreds of thousands of lives. I recently asked 120 students of mine whether they believe a hot war between the US and China could erupt in the next 5 years. 62% said yes, most pointing to tensions over Taiwan or in the South China Sea. In my security study class, I remind them that we study security not to glorify war, but to prevent it, to minimize human tragedy, and to always hope that conflicts can be resolved peacefully before anyone decides to resort to violence. Yet beyond wars, we face the rise of non-traditional security threats, pandemics, the climate crisis, and the crumbling liberal world order. To this, we must also add the disruptive power of emerging technologies like artificial intelligence. They hold promise, but also risk deepening inequality, spreading disinformation, and reshaping the future work in ways that could leave young people even more vulnerable. Civil society, once vibrant, is now shrinking under pressure. Funding cuts to United Nations and multilateral forums, often by the very nation that built and underwrote them, leave us weaker at precisely the moment we need stronger cooperation. The world that requires tighter cooperation to solve shared problems is also a world where countries are retreating into self-help and treating anarchy as the rule of the game. How then can young people feel certain about their future? How can they plan their life with confidence when wars rage on, when institutions crumble, and cooperation falters? This despair is not of young people's making. It is the result of collective past leadership that has failed us. The burden of past leadership is heavy, but the duty of present leadership is clear: to change the course while there is still time. And this is not just a Thai concern. Young people everywhere, from Bangkok to Manila, from Kiev to Gaza, share the same anxiety. Will the world we inherit be livable? We often call the youth the hope of the future. But when we look at the burdens being left behind, wars, insecurity, climate change, inequality, we must ask, is this too heavy a load for them to carry alone? By now, you may have noticed that I speak as much to the adults in this room as to the young people. In Thailand, my hope is that the leaders will listen more closely to young voices, discerning their core messages with compassion, not judgment. For ASEAN, my hope is that reforms will restore respect, reputation, and relevance in the eyes of the next generation. And at the international level, my hope is that the leaders recognize the unsustainability of the current trajectory, because the weight of the wars, non-traditional threats, and the demise of the global order is too much for young people to inherit without real change. Resilience at the global level means not abandoning cooperation, but rebuilding it so that young people still have a future to inherit. Friends and colleagues, if there's one message that I wish to leave with you today, it is this: young people cannot and should not carry these burdens alone. The responsibility for building a resilient future does not rest only on their shoulders. It is shared by all of us, leaders, institutions, and societies. For Thailand, resilience will depend on whether those power can listen, truly listen, to the voices of young people, to see through passion, rhetoric, and to engage with their core argument in good faith. For ASEAN, resilience will depend on whether its leaders can reform, act collectively so that this 55 years old institution remains respected, reputable, and relevant in the eyes of its youngest citizen. And for the international community, resilience will depend on whether we can find the courage to rebuild trust in the global cooperation, to prevent wars rather than wage them, to strengthen, not abandon, the multilateral institution that safeguards our shared humanity. The youth may be the hope of the future, but adults must be the guardians of that hope today. Hope, after all, cannot survive on its own. It needs space to grow, support to endure, and leadership to make it meaningful. If today's leader act with anukampa, that compassion and empathy which allow us to truly hear and understand, then we can create a world where young people not only carry hope, but also see it realized. And so I end with the words of Jose Rizal, the great Filipino and Southeast Asian hero. The youth is the hope of our future. Let us not make that hope a burden too heavy to bear. Let us make it a promise we are all committed to fulfill. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Fuadi. Resilience depends on whether today's leaders can truly listen to youth, reform ASEAN, and rebuild global cooperation. Otherwise, hope risks turning into a burden for the younger generation. Listening to Dr. Fuadi makes me feel young again because I turned 39 this year. Okay. So I guess I still qualify as young leader too. Okay, so let's bring all our speakers together for a panel discussion. I have only one question for each of you. If you had the power to change just one thing to help make our future more resilient, what would you change? And if you could say just one thing to the leaders in this room, what would you ask them to change? And what do you want them to hear from your generation? Who's going to take first? Ladies first? Or even?
I would just want to double click on my message, and that is when we think about the future, I would encourage the younger generation to also think about the past. And for those of us who are maybe young at heart but not so young in age anymore, to think about the future. So there's this intergenerational knowledge and wisdom that we need to be sharing between ourselves, because we can't just think about issues in silos anymore. Likewise, we can't just think about knowledge in silos.
Thank you. Ivan?
Sure. I guess on the first question to the younger generation, I guess I would say stop daydreaming. Thinking about the future is great and it's important, but the hard work is actually today's problem. And we don't lack today's problem. There's a lot of those complexities on the policy side that requires full attention and hard work. Yes, you can think about the future as a guiding signal, if you will, as a signpost that you want to run towards. But the problem is today, and we don't lack problems today. So if there's any extra energy that you have, and you have a lot because you're young, you should focus on today's problem.
Thank you. Fuadi.
This is a difficult question. Other than saying that the adults should listen without judgment, I would refer to Edward Said in his 1993 book has used this term called contrapuntal intellectual. This is the ability of someone to be able to carry different narrative and willingness to understand the different narrative. And this is what I hope other people can. There will be more people like this. Like what I did today was I carry a message, voices from another forum who talk about other things, who fight for other things, to this forum. And then I seek to understand the view of my security-focused friend and take this view to tell them that, hey, there are hope of military being professional. There are really top leadership thinkers that we do have hope in this sector of the society. So I try to do both. Another example is the Thai-Cambodian crisis. I struggle between my three identity. First is my identity as a Thai, right? I mean, we are being attacked. We are at war. I felt lost. I felt that I feel sympathized. I identify with the soldiers being lost along the borders. But another identity, I am an intellectual. I am a scholar. I am interested in objective truth. Whether did we do anything wrong? Did Cambodia do anything? Why did they shoot BM-21 into our civilian area? Why did Thai military do this? Were we respectful of international law? These are the questions I have as a scholar, as an academic, right? Objective truth. And then I have another hat. Another identity is as a human. I also feel pain when I see my Cambodian friends, the Cambodian soldiers, people suffer and facing these kind of casualties. These different identities, the ability to be interested in different kind of narrative, I really do hope more people can perform this role in the society. I don't ask everyone to be, but I think there should be more of us who struggle with this. In the words of my late professor Joseph Nye, he studied leadership, and then he said a good leader. I don't remember the exact quote, but he said a good leader have to struggle between being a trustee of his or her voters, but also struggle because he is also the fiduciary of humanity in general.
Interesting.
So, I think.
Another special question for you, because Thailand has just gone through another political turmoil, with the Prime Minister removed by Constitutional Court after a recall. It is really interesting. So how do you make sense of this moment?
Am I allowed to say everything I wanted to say on the stage? No. But I think the biggest challenge for young people to understand, to see the biggest pain, is to see that politics is still very much a venue for political backdoor channel dealing rather than competence and national interest. I think this is very painful for young people to see, and I think that is how you can understand Thai politics. It's very much, it's seen on TV, right? Negotiation, dealing, and I don't know where the interest of the nation, interest of the people is within this, right? And when I first met our Chief of Defense Force, I told him that my view may be clear, strong, but when we speak of national interest, it doesn't matter which side, which political side you belong to, which fundamental belief you have, you can share ideas, you can talk, and in good faith. And I don't see that in Thai politics.
And who will be our next Prime Minister?
If I knew.
Just kidding. So we now have some time to take questions from the audience. So if you have a question, please raise your hand and introduce yourself briefly and ask your question. That guy. We will take 2 or 3 questions at a time and then go to our speakers to respond. Please.
Good afternoon. My name is Saranyapat. I guess I'm a representative of the younger generation here today. And to hear, which we still consider you of the younger generation, I'm sure. But to hear you all speak today about the hopes and dreams for the future generation has been inspiring. But I think all of you have, in your messaging, somewhat urged understanding between the 2 generations, especially urged a better communication between the 2 generations. So my question is about communication. How can the 2 generations understand each other better when perhaps young people can seem to the older generation to be too idealistic, too emotional in what they believe and what they communicate, whereas young people who grew up in this world with our disillusionment may see the older generation as not understanding enough, or we are not able to understand their thought process. So in your opinion, what would be a way towards better communication between the 2 generations?
Great question. Communication. How old are you?
I am 18.
Okay, the real one. One more question, I think. Please. This guy, please. Here. Please raise your hand. Okay, we have 2 questions. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm Tuan Kam from Lao PDR. My question goes to Dr. Fuadi. In your speech, you have mentioned about reforming of ASEAN in order to make sure that ASEAN maintains its relevance. So I'm wondering if you can further elaborate the idea of reforming of ASEAN. So what factors should be involved, or what steps can be taken in order to make sure that ASEAN can maintain its relevance, especially for this current geopolitical situation. Thank you.
Thank you. I think Dr. Ivan can jump in this.
I think everyone
also.
can.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, please, the last question, this guy. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Darupon Rungsawan from the School of Diplomacy and International Studies, Rangsit University. First of all, I am still a younger generation. I don't want you guys to judge me, so I claim myself first. I have a questions regarding the concept of global citizens, which I believe that it is a concept that many younger generations believe, and I am also a huge fan of this concept. However, regarding the global situation nowadays, it seems that nations around the world seems to be more isolating themselves and tend to be more and more conflict, right? Both politically and economically, and also plus with the social media that has many times disunite people around the world. So my question would be can be for all of you. So how do you think about the concept of global citizen? Is it going to be undermined, and do you have any idea how to promote it and strengthen it? Because myself, I truly believe that it has benefits in many aspects. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Great questions. So the first one, communication. Who's going to take first?
Again.
Dr. Ivan, I think it's your turn. You know a lot.
A very good set of questions. So I'll try to hit some of them, but maybe not all of them. I think certainly on communication, it is a cliche, but it's a cliche for a reason, which is the journey is what's important, not the destination. So it's not about a singular outcome in which there's no more gap between generations. In fact, I would say you shouldn't close that gap. You should live within it and leverage it, and not try to close that gap. But the continuous dialogue between generations, whether through forums like this, whether to more informal settings in terms of conversations, I think as long as there is a platform in which both sides could respectfully communicate with each other, no matter how contentious the issue, I think there is no singular endpoint or outcome in which, yes, we have successfully communicated. I think the process has to be a continuous journey. And I think what is interesting about Southeast Asia, perhaps somewhat unique to the region, is the fluidity, actually, between government officials, track 1, and non-government, track 2, between younger and elder generations. The region is undergoing a huge demographic dividend as well. So certainly a continuous process of dialogue, I think, is job number one. But there is no idealistic benchmark in which we can say we've accomplished successful communication. I think it's always going to be fraught with challenges. And I think this goes to a little bit to the question on global citizenship. I think as an ideal, as Fuadi said, at heart we are all a part of the same humanity. I think that's something to hold dear. That's fine. But as a policy person, I would say it is much more difficult for obvious reasons. In fact, I would say, sometimes my friends, including those in the panel, often think of me as overly skeptic and overly pessimist. I think it's precisely because on the policy side, maybe it's okay that there is no global citizenship, because if you can imagine the problems of Ukraine to be a problem of Southeast Asia, or the problem of Myanmar to be the problem of Europe, it's a very messy situation. So in fact, I would say from a policy standpoint, free movement of people in ASEAN, in other places, is certainly something to encourage. And at heart, as a goal, I think that's fine. But as a matter of specific policy, I think I'm okay that there is no such thing as a global citizenship. And I speak as somebody who was born in Europe, lived in Australia and Asia, and studied in the U.S. So you can embody being a global citizen, but you don't actually have to be one. I think is an okay reality as well. Lastly, on the ASEAN reform, I think certainly the three of us here have struggled with this question pretty much most of our career, and there is no one right answer. But I think there's a couple of misconceptions that people often throw around that I think needs to be made clear before we can figure out what to fix about ASEAN. First of all, there is no such thing as ASEAN. There is no ASEAN agency as an actor that does its own thing. ASEAN is only as whatever the leaders want it to be. There is no singular ASEAN going about the world, changing things and doing things. That doesn't exist. ASEAN is only whatever the leaders want it to be. And so it starts with the individual Southeast Asian states. It doesn't start with the grouping. And obviously, as Fuadi mentioned, the individual Southeast Asian states right now are not doing well. The challenges in Thailand, in Jakarta the last few days, in Indonesia, in places like the Philippines, Myanmar certainly, Laos, Cambodia. So every single Southeast Asian states right now are not doing well domestically and certainly geopolitically. The age of hedging, I think, is increasingly unsustainable for Southeast Asia. Until they figure that question out, it's not clear to me the value of ASEAN in that sense. And so before we talk about ASEAN as a grouping to be reformed, it is the individual Southeast Asian states that need to get their domestic political order in balance and, of course, improve their own strategic policy making. All of that, let's say, presumably can be done. What is it exactly about the grouping that can be fixed? I, for one, think if we are committed to ASEAN as a grouping, first of all, stop exporting the ASEAN way. It's not about what ASEAN can export to the rest of the region. It's improving intra-ASEAN integration. It's a homework that we've abandoned over the last 20 years in our attempt to create the ASEAN Regional Forum and East Asia Summit and all of those things when we haven't really solved intra-ASEAN integration. So the processes that we proud ourselves to be as ASEAN centrality is actually not really solid. We have too many institutions which we don't use, whether it's the ASEAN Troika that was mentioned yesterday, the ASEAN High Council. It's not that we lack architecture. We lack the will to use the architecture that exists. But if you really want to be progressive and make it much more harder, reform the ASEAN Charter. That's job number one. Without reforming the ASEAN Charter, improving how the ASEAN Secretary General is elected, for example, what authority can the ASEAN Secretary General have in leading, what kind of authority the grouping has for crisis management. If something happens on Thai-Cambodia, this is something that the ASEAN should have been working on since February, not last month. And so the idea that ASEAN is there to convene is great, it's necessary, but it's absolutely not sufficient. And that requires, I think, a fundamental set of discussions over the core of the ASEAN Charter, what the group can be and what the group should be, but none of that will matter until the individual Southeast Asian states, again, take control, because there is no ASEAN in that matter.
Oh, thank you. Very insightful. Elina, would you agree with him?
Well, I thought I was pessimistic and cynical. Let me start with a question on ASEAN reform, just to lighten Fuadi's load a little. So I think there needs to be better cross-pillar coordination within ASEAN on different issues, because we no longer have the luxury to consider political, economic, military, socio-cultural issues in their own different silos. Everything is bleeding into each other, and we're seeing this across, whether it's tariffs or whether it's technology access. The fact that, and I'm biased towards technology because I work in this space, the fact that technology is primarily led by the ASEAN economic pillar creates blind spots in other areas. The AI that is used, for example, to power our quote-unquote digital economy is also used for more nefarious purposes, whether it's surveillance, whether it is for drones in warfare. All this should be considered in totality, and there needs to be better cross-pillar coordination. On global citizen, I think it's how you define it, right? I prefer to think of it in terms of being a globalized citizen, so that whether we're in Southeast Asia, we're in Africa or Latin America, we are aware of what is going on in other parts of the world, and we're able to connect the dots that brings us together. On better communication, I think better communication starts with listening. And, in many events where systematic change has been tried or has been initiated, has been at the power of the youth, right? Think of the Vietnam War protests. Think of the school sit-ins that Greta Thunberg first initiated. It's whether the other side wants to listen or not. And so I think better communication begins with listening. The youth, I have every confidence that they can actually spark systemic change that we so badly need in this world. It's whether we're able to listen and sit with the message.
Thank you. Fuadi.
On the question of reform, I think Article 50 in the ASEAN Charter has to be triggered. Article 50 mandates the Charter to be reviewed 5 years after it was issued. It was issued in 2008. It still hasn't been reviewed yet. So I think Article 50 had to be triggered. And if that is triggered, I think one of the most important reform that we have to do is to rethink the principle of non-interference. I think other people have talked about this before. But we have to understand that de facto, this principle has been violated all the time. Through different mechanisms, we may call it differently, but it has been violated. The case in point is Hun Sen removing our Prime Minister. This is the case, most immediate case in point. It has many times not been respected. On the good days, on the good example, positive example, we sent troops, Thailand sent peacekeeping force to East Timor in 1998. Not so much under the ASEAN flag, but it was ASEAN member was the major endorsement of that move. The Cyclone Nargis, that was ASEAN, right? We lobby Teng Seng to go in, threaten them with R2P. Hey, the French will invade if you don't let ASEAN work with you. Then Hun Sen, we strong arm Teng Seng in the military junta into letting ASEAN work with them, right? Aceh, we sent peacekeeping. We are Aceh monitoring team. I think 220 members. 1/3 was ASEAN members. The rest were 2/3 were EU members. Right? We sent troops. We do overcome this all the time. I think it's the ability to recognize that. And how do you still have to put non-interference in there, but I think there should be brackets. There should be exception. Yes, principle of non-interference, but in case of XYZ could be genocide, XYZ could be ethnic cleansing, XYZ could be when the government cannot handle the situation domestically, cannot protect its own citizens, or when the conflict, there are conflict between two ASEAN member states, then non-interference should be overruled or should be overcome, right? I think some of these exceptions should be put into the charter. And then Evan says someone mentioned ASEAN High Council. And this is not in the ASEAN Charter, but it is in the Treaty of Amity and Cooperation, which was signed in 1976. It has never been triggered, right? ASEAN High Council. This is a council that would, it is an ASEAN dispute settlement, conflict settlement mechanism. It has never been triggered. This ASEAN High Council is when a ministerial level come together to give recommendation on a particular dispute. And this could be triggered, right? Doesn't need to be reformed, but could be used. And that is also why I think this proposed ASEAN monitoring mission has to happen and should happen. It would be really good for ASEAN. I understand there's some pushback, but if this could happen, it would demonstrate that ASEAN, at least our region, can take care of ourselves. The world can worry about other places, but at least ASEAN is good enough, capable enough, and restore faith among young people that ASEAN can do something with the conflict.
Thank you so much. So my conclusion is this generation is not just waiting for the future, but they are building it. But they cannot do it alone. So today is not the end of a conversation. I truly believe it's a beginning. We must walk forward together. So please give a round of applause to our amazing speakers. And thank you so much for joining us. And see you next time. Thank you so much.
Thank you all the panelists and the moderator for giving such an insightful insights. And
thank you to our esteemed panelists and moderator for the enlightening discussion and for giving us hopes for the brighter future. Ladies and gentlemen, we have just concluded our insightful fifth plenary session. We hope you found the discussion as engaging and thought-provoking as we did. We would like to take a moment to express our heartfelt appreciation to our distinguished speakers for their invaluable contributions.
So please remain on the stage.
To present tokens of appreciation, I would now like to invite General Pongthep Keo Chayo, Commanding General of NDSI. To the stage, please join me in welcoming General Pongthep Keo Chayo. First, may I invite Dr. Fuadi Pitsuwan to receive the token of appreciation. Next, I'd like to invite Ms. Elina Noor to receive the token of appreciation. May I now invite Dr. Ivan Laxmana to receive the token of appreciation. And last but not least, I would like to invite Mr. Nakarin Wanakit Paigu to receive the token of appreciation.
May I invite the CDF to join us for a group photo, please? We hope that the views and insights from our young leader will enlighten you and benefit you or your organizations in the future. And after this, we'll now take a short break. You can find the afternoon break refreshments and snacks right in front of the Crystal Hall B from 1500 to 1530. And we ask you to return promptly at 1530 hours, which is the final session of the day. In this final session, you will be listening to summary and key takeaways from General Pongthep Keo Chayo, Commanding General of the NDSI. Thank you all the panelists and moderator. And now we have 30 minutes break, so you can take refreshments and snacks right in front of the room. So please be back here by 3:30. By 3:30.
If you haven't scanned the QR codes on the screen for the information and the videos, pictures of the whole event, please do so right now.
ตอนนี้นะคะก็ให้เวลาพักประมาณครึ่งชั่วโมงนะคะท่านใดนะคะอยากจะออกไปยืดเส้นยืดสายก็สามารถเดินไปด้านนอกได้นะคะแล้วก็ด้านนอกก็มีขนมแล้วก็มีกาแฟนะคะเตรียมไว้อยู่ก็สามารถไปรับมาทานด้านในได้ค่ะแล้วก็ขาดไม่ได้ค่ะขอขอบคุณผู้สนับสนุนนะคะตามภาพฉายเลยค่ะที่ทำให้งานนี้เกิดขึ้นมาได้ค่ะ
Thank And once again, we will not have this event without the support and help from the sponsors as shown in the screen. And here's a QR code for the evaluation form and to receive the feedback, what we think about our events, any room for improvement, something that should be sustained, please feel free to add it so we can make it better next year and the future forward.
they are
Berlin and represented
and this
much I that's they're
Ladies and gentlemen, please be back and return to your seats so we can resume to the program.
The next program will start shortly, so please make your way to your seats. And we still have a keynote speaker, one special keynote speaker available. And we also have special performance waiting for you. So right now, please make way into the Crystal Hall B, and the program will start shortly.
Ladies and gentlemen, please return to your seat. We're going to start the program soon.
Welcome back to the almost last session of Thailand Security Dialogue 2025 on the theme Peace and Security in a Global Disruption. And today we still have one more session that is very, very interesting. And we will now move on to our summary session, which will be led by General Pongthep Kaeochayo, Commanding General of the National Defense Studies Institute, Thailand. General will provide a comprehensive summary of the key takeaways and insights from the various sessions and discussion held throughout the event. Following his summary, there will be a special choir performance of We Are the World. Please join me in welcoming General Pongthep Kaeochayo to the stage.
Sawadee krab. Good afternoon, everyone. General Songwit Nunpakdi, Chief of Defence Force of the Royal Thai Armed Forces Headquarters, ambassadors, defence attaches, esteemed leaders, honoured guests, speakers, moderators, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. It is a great honour and privilege for me again to be standing here in front of you once again. We have concluded this crucial Thailand Security Dialogue 2025 over the past 2 days with 34 speakers from 12 countries and more than 300 participants and over 10,000 views online. We have truly convened the leading forces dedicated to our common purpose, the pursuit of peace and security in an era of unprecedented disruption. In his keynote yesterday morning, Dr. Surakiart Sithianthai set the stage perfectly, calling our event urgently, timely given the current global disruption and rising great power rivalry. His message was a powerful one, that ASEAN and Thailand must continue to foster dialogue, bridge divides, and promote peace through unity and mutual respect. Our discussion began by exploring geopolitical confrontation and its implication for security studies. We acknowledge that a shifting global order, trust is often overshadowed by rivalries, making it essential for us to leverage tools like ASEAN's unity and centrality, humanitarian responses and dialogue. We also highlighted Thailand's unique and vital role in facilitating cooperation and maintaining peace in the Pacific. We turned our attention to the evolving regional security dynamic. We recognize that while ASEAN has achieved so much, it must be more pragmatic, adaptive, and proactive to address mutual threats and remain relevant in a fragmented, multi-power world. Our sessions explored the need for a new security and peace paradigm, underscoring the Indo-Pacific's central role in global prosperity, rather than creating entirely new platforms. We concluded that strengthening existing forums like the ARF, AMD+, and the EAS is key to serving as a neutral venue for dialogue. We come to today's morning. His remarks, Mr. Sakawa, draw his long life commitment to peace, shaped by his childhood experience of war. To highlight the complexity of Myanmar's conflict, his message was clear that trust, dialogue, and silent diplomacy are essential to building lasting peace. With hope of democratic federal state in Myanmar, he pledged close cooperation from Thailand in advancing peace and stability. Further on today, we also dived into the complex web of a complex, interconnected transnational crime faced by Southeast Asia. This posed significant threats to stability and development. These challenges cross borders, requiring innovative solutions through stronger international cooperation, intelligence sharing, and joint operations. Legal framework must be strengthened and harmonized regionally to ensure seamless enforcement. Also, advanced technology including AI and data analysis is vital to disrupt criminal network. Public awareness and community engagement are equally important in building resilience. Overall, combating transnational crime demands national reforms and collective regional and global actions. In our simultaneous sessions, we address critical new frontiers. The first one to be the challenge of AI, blockchain, and cybersecurity, highlighted the interconnected risk posed by those technologies. The discussion emphasized the need for proactive, evidence-based strategies over crisis-driven response. Panelists noted that AI risk, like bias and unpredictability, along with challenges to digital sovereignty from blockchains and quantum technologies, demand regional cooperations and whole of society engagement. They called for a robust regulation and strong public-private partnership to build further proof infrastructures and mitigate the unintended consequences of disruptive technologies. The second simultaneous session was on economic security. They explored how geopolitics, technologies, and shifting global supply chains are reshaping economic stability. The speakers emphasized that the U.S. and China competition is increasingly fought on economic rather than on military grounds. With supply chains resilience, strategic autonomy, and technological leadership at the core. Economic security now means safeguarding prosperity against external shock. Protectionism and coercion, while balancing global and diversification and nearshoring. The discussion highlighted Europe's vulnerabilities, ASEAN needs to adapt, and the growing role of green and digital transition in shaping future competitiveness. Ultimately, countries must build resilience through innovation, investment in human capital, and proactive policies to secure prosperity in a vital global order. Finally, this afternoon, we centered to our next generation leaders who will be navigating this uncertainty in the future. The panel discussion stressed that resilience hinges on how societies treat their youth, how ASEAN's reforms to stay relevant, and how world tackles global crisis. Speakers noted that resilience depends on empowering youth, ASEAN reforms, and collective responses to global crisis. Young people bring ideas and energy, but must be heard. While ASEAN faces crisis of respect, reputations, and relevance, with youth inheriting burdens from wars, climate changes, and weakened multilateralism, resilience requires inclusive leadership, systematic change, and citizens' participation. The sessions concluded that young leaders are indispensable as reality checkers, innovators, and network builders for a resilient future. Ladies and gentlemen, we leave this dialogue with a shared understanding and a collective responsibility. The insights are a valuable compass, but a compass is useless unless we start to walk. Let's take the trust we have built together from these 2 days that we are here, the ideas that we have shared, and the unity we have rediscovered, and begin the work of translating this dialogue into a legacy of peace for the next generation. Let's not just hope for a peaceful world. Let's build one together. Let's walk forward together. สวัสดีครับ
Thank you, General Pongthep Kaeochayo, Commanding General of NDSI, for the comprehensive summary, which is a flashback of what we have listened these 2 days. And after his speech, we also have a special performance. So could you please explain more about this?
The special choir performance is of We Are the World. So it's performed by the Dynamics Band, which was formed by Voice Academy, Thailand, to participate in the competition songs for the nation and the throne, organized by Internal Security Operations Command, and won first prize in the team category in 2022.
Wow.
The group consists of young people aged 10 to 24 years old from various educational institutions coming together to learn and work as a cohesive team. So there are three types of music genres. First is the royal composition. Second is Christmas carols. And third is performance style like show choral singing combined with the choreography.
As you can see on the stage, please give them a big round of applause. So we can hand over the stage to the performers. So please enjoy.
Let's be Thai, you and I say Fuadi. Foreign or shy, Fuadi, don't you agree?
Fuadi for when we meet, Fuadi you just repeat. Come, don't be shy, say Fuadi.
For bright daylight is quite alright for Fuadi. And then this night was too polite for Fuadi.
Wait for old boy, young and old, speak no time.
วัสดี
สวัสดี
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 ครับสวัสดีครับ
And from the start to when we part we สวัสดี
You can go wrong just sing along with สวัสดี
With a smile you now can say from the heart the old time way till we meet again is สวัสดี till we meet again is สวัสดี till we meet again สวัสดี
There comes a time when we hear the sun call, when the world must come together as one. There are people dying,
And it's time to lend a hand to life, the greatest gift of all. We can't go on pretending day by day that someone somehow will soon make a change.
we are all a part of God's great big family. And the truth, you know, love is all we need.
We are the world. We are the children. We are the ones who make a brighter day. So let's start giving.
There's a choice we make. We're saving our whole life. This group will make a better day. Just you and me. Well, send them your heart so they know that someone cares.
So they cries for help not be in vain.
We can let them suffer.
No, we cannot turn away. Right now, we need the helping hand.
We are the world. We are the children. We are the ones who make a brighter day. So let's start giving.
There's a choice we're making. We're saving our whole life. It's true to make a better day. Just you and me. When you're down and out, it seems the whole bad all. But if you just believe, there's nowhere we can fall. Well, let us realize that the change will only come when we stand together as one. As one.
We are the world.
We are the children. We are the ones to make a brighter day. So let's start giving.
you breaking, look around and see that your dreams gone. When the earthquakes will help you make it through the storm. When the floor makes a magic carpet to stand on. We are the world united by love so strong. When the weather isn't on, you can hear the song. I got a light on the dark road you're walking on. A signpost to find, to see you focus on. Someone to help you move the obstacle you stumble on. Someone to help you with prayers after the rock was gone. We are the world connected by a common bond. Love, the whole planet singing along. We are the world. We are the children. We are the ones who make a brighter day. So let's start giving. There's a choice we make. We're saving our own life. It's proof to make a better day. Just you and me. We are the world. We are the children. We are the ones who make a brighter day. So let's start giving. There's a choice we make. We're saving our own life. It's proof to make a better day. Just you and me. Just you and me. We are the world. We are the children. The children. The children.
Ooh, what a wonderful performance. This performance is led by คุณนก Primapakon Rojanashwin, who has held many titles and awards from many competitions. And what a beautiful and inspiring performance, Fuadi and We Are the World, by the talented students from the schools inside Bangkok. Their rendition of Harmony for Peaceful World truly resonates the spirit of unity and peace that we all strive for in our global community.
Let's give another round of applause for these young students. We have now reached the final segment of our program. This is our great honor to welcome to the stage the Chief of Defense Forces, Royal Thai Armed Forces, General Songwit Nunpakdi, to deliver the closing speech for the Thailand Security Dialogue 2025. Please, sir.
Good afternoon, friends and family. I think I've been on this stage more than anyone, maybe 30, 40 times. So it will take a while for me to recover from my physical challenge here. First of all, thank you very much for being here with me. They wrote me a note, but it's very similar to your note, so I'm going to veer off note. First of all, I like to thank everyone for being here. It's like a family reunion. It's like an uplifting, knowing new friends, talking about issues that is relevant to us and the next generation. I want to start by thank you, the organizer, the sound engineer, the technical engineer who's in this room, the translator who's in that booth. They came all the way from Washington, D.C. and Maryland to be with us to translate simultaneously in Thai. I want to thank the U.S. Indo-PACOM for delegation, for being with me for almost 7 days now. And also Lynn also being with us at Hua Hin and also here. I want to thank Nadi. You've been in Thailand, I think 5 or 6 days now. Hopefully you and your family enjoy your time here. And this is a very good nexus between Nadi think tank and also this seminar. I want to thank our sponsors for sure that they given us the opportunity to do this event by supporting us. The Attorney Hotel gave us a very good deal on setting this up, and also the money that we use, financial help that we use to bring all of you together.
I want to thank my Marvel Adventure teams, Dr. Lalita, Bia, General Veera, Dr. Kan, who am I with? They have been on this quest for security with me along the way. And they've been in my darkest hours through the 2 years, whether it's the Middle East conflict, whether it's the Myanmar conflict, and recently the Thai-Cambodian conflict. So my hats off to them. I want to thank the younger generations. Most of them graduate from our international school Harrows. They will go on to Durham in the UK, LSE in the UK, and hopefully someday you will go to Georgetown in the US also to please my American friends. I want to finally thank everyone who is in this room. This venue is not only just an engagement that I see as a public relation, but it's actually a vision. When I was young, I read a book. I think it's titled Death or Victory. It tells a story about the struggle of Mahatma Gandhi through his years. And I learned about the power of the vision from that book. When he was in South Africa, I'm not sure back then what it's called. He was on a train, and he was harassed. He was kicked out of the train, and in his mind, he visioned the colonial power crumble in his country. So I knew back then that vision is the thing that we have to try to achieve through passion. So I term it Vision Quest. I have a lot of vision quests throughout my years. Some possible, some achievable, some not achievable. For example, I'm very into gender equality in the military. Next month, on the 13th of September, there will be the first Thai female officers who graduate from Officer Candidate School in Singapore. First time in our history. Last month, there was the first Thai NCO, non-commissioned officer, who graduated from the Q course in Fort Bragg. And later on, next May, there will be the first Thai officer who graduated from U.S. Command and General Staff College, Fort Leavenworth. The one who helped me on this quest was Tim Peterman, sitting back there, giving us the sponsorship, giving us the opportunity. I have that quest. But in every quest I venture in, it's come down to the people who support me. And the vision today is complete. This is my shoreline. This is my sunsetting of my career. So today will be a memorable moment for me that you are all here to witness and participate in this event. It's a soul searching in a way. I will always remember your face, your contribution, your words, and also your deeds that you help Thailand to be a hub for intellectual academic engagement in an openness forum. My last point was, I hope the arrangement for your visit here met your expectation. On behalf of the Royal Thai Armed Forces, I wish you all good health, enduring happiness, and a safe journey back home. It's never goodbye. It's till we meet again. So it's now my honor to declare the Thailand Security Dialogue 2025 officially closed.
Thank you, General Songwit Nunpakdi, for your deliveries. Such an inspiring and heartfelt closing address. Your words leave us with renewed determination to continue working together in strengthening our shared security and cooperation. And now may I kindly invite all of our Thai senior commanders in the front rows representatives from embassies, and defense attaché on the stage for a group photo.
All the DAs, please join us on a stage for a group photo, please. One more picture, please. One more. 3, 2, 1. Okay, thank you for a representative. Okay, and a second shot, I would like to invite the guest speakers to join our commanders for a group photo,
And,
please.
For the next picture, I'd like to ask all the Thai senior commanders to remain on the stage. The next group photo will be the guest speakers and keynote speakers up on the stage, please.
I would like to invite the moderators as well to join us for a group photo, please. Moderator as well, please. ขอเรียนเชิญ moderator นะคะขึ้นบนเวทีเพื่อถ่ายภาพหมู่ค่ะขอเรียนเชิญค่ะ Okay, camera please. 3, 2, 1. One more. 3, 2, 1. All right. Thank you, commanders and representatives from international organizations. Now that our group photo session has concluded, we have officially reached an end of the Thailand Security Dialogue 2025. On behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to express our deepest gratitude to all our distinguished speakers, special guests, and participants for making Thailand Security Dialogue 2025 a great success.
We wish you all a safe journey back home and hope to see you again at future events and the next Thailand Security Dialogue next year. Thank you and goodbye.
But before you go back home, you can see that on the screen we have a QR code. So please answer or comment through this survey. Just scan with your devices. If you are not available at this time, please take a photo and then comment later. Your comment is highly appreciated and we can use your comments to improve our work next year.
All of your feedback will be improvement and anything that we could sustain to make the Thailand Security Dialogue next year even better.
ค่ะและในงานนี้นะคะก็ขาดไม่ได้เลยค่ะต้องขอบคุณสปอนเซอร์ทุกท่านนะคะที่ให้การสนับสนุนการจัดงานสัมมนาวิชาการนานาชาติปีนี้ขึ้นมาค่ะแล้วก็ขอบคุณทาง Organize ทางผู้จัดงานรวมถึงกำลังพลทุกท่านนะคะที่ทำงานกันอย่างอุตสาหะค่ะเพื่อให้เกิดงานนี้ขึ้นมาค่ะ
And once again, thank you all the sponsors for helping support this event. We could not do it without you, as well as all the organizing team, people working behind the curtain, working so hard to make this happen.